Hi. Good evening, everybody. A very impromptu evening this evening. We plans have changed, things have changed. That's fine. These things happen. So I'm here. That's exciting, isn't it? And no idea what to talk about, which is unusual for me. Those of you who know me will understand that. But anyway, it really is about change and the times we find ourselves in with all this change going on and uncertainty and unrest and just everything, isn't it? Every facet of our life we're having challenges going on. A lot of division I see between various groups and a lot of frustration, which is coming out in many interesting ways in people, in their behaviours and their words and things. So very, very unsettling time for us. However, quick hello Gail, hello Sharon. However, for us on the spiritualist or spiritual path, how do we navigate these changes? How do we use that inherent knowledge that we have built up and acquired in our journey? How is this of use in today's world? Interesting. I've taken 2 services this week, which has been wonderful, one in person and one virtual. And again, something, I'm sure a lot of you have been saying this yourselves or have heard other people saying it, that spirit have changed the way they're working with us. Hi, Jan. That's been very prevalent for the last 8 or 10 months, really, that started coming in. But do you know what? The more I hear and the more I see, I'll talk on spiritualism. In spiritualism is the need more for us to focus on ourselves. We've just had a 6-week psychic development course here, which was really well attended. Thank you, everybody. And really interesting exercises and different ways of working. One way of working I brought in was the good old-fashioned ribbon reading. Hello, Belinda. You're right, darling. And Blue. Good evening. Good evening. We are international tonight. Yes, the good old-fashioned ribbon readings. And I found myself saying to people, do not put your power into the ribbons. I've probably said this before, so apologies if I'm repeating it. Because people can do that. And somebody did actually say it, and I picked them up very quickly on it, and they went, oh, that's red ribbon, so that means. And it's like, no, it should be meaning what you're feeling at the time. And I'm noticing that effect in a lot of our practices, a lot of our language, and I'm sure a lot of it is very unconscious as well, about if you do this, this will happen. If you do that, that will happen. If you go here, ask this. And it's always going outside of yourself. And the more I hear that, the more I see this. Hello, Matt. You all right, mate? The more, good evening, Trish, the more it makes me think, hello, lovely Marion. I'll get there in the end. The more it makes me think that self-worth, self-empowerment, self-development are really, really crucial. And I do really think it's an area that's been neglected for quite some time now. I've just started up a new circle here, and let's wind that clock up. A new circle here, and it's focusing on platform demonstration private sittings. But I'm really emphasizing with everybody on that course as well about the personal development. And I actually said to them all, I can teach you mechanics of things. Hello, Maria. I can teach you mechanics. I can teach you, how to construct a message, what to look for, how, all these different things. But I can't teach you to be a good person. That's got to come from you. Because we do see it, don't we, in our movement? We do see some people and just think, wow, that's interesting. But yeah, I really do strongly think that in this time which we're finding ourselves, that the need for our own empowerment, our own personal development, looking within rather than without all the time, I think that's going to be really, I don't want to say crucial, because we're all different, we all operate differently, and that's fine, but really empowering to be able to do that, to actually start to get that belief in yourself, because it's like we spend an awful lot of time chasing after things. And we always sort of like externalize a lot of things in our language. I go to my guides, or my guides come to me, or this comes to me, or I'm going to the other world, or and it's always externalizing things. Remember, when I say things, it's not me blowing my trumpet or anything, because it's my example, and this is why I'm yammering on. But I have found last couple of months with demonstration work. Hello, lovely Ashley. Hello, Margaret. But actually, this process that we used to follow about relaxing and going to the other world, or inviting the other world in, I'm finding actually that no longer sort of fits the bill. I'm just relaxing, and it's there. There's no going to anywhere. There's no pulling anything in or calling down people. It's here. We are living in this spiritual world already. And it's here. It's around us all the time. And I think once we start adjusting our thinking to take something like that on board, it does sort of like break down the barriers, because again, the trouble with externalizing things is automatically what follows in our makeup, in our thinking, that we are beholding to the spirit world for coming through for us and things like that. But it's not, it's just this purely natural, just relax. I always teach my students, relax into mediumship. Don't get in your head about, I want this, I want that, I want this. Just relax into it, let it unfold, let it naturally follow the rhythm. Hello, Julie. You're right, darling. Follow the rhythm that is here already. And I think that's probably the most important thing. It's here already. When we have our quiet moment before we work, before we demonstrate, before we sit in circle, whatever the process is, that's for us. That's for our mind to just turn the volume down a wee bit. Good evening, Karen. That's for us, purely for us. It's not. This is where I am at the moment. This will probably change in the next few months. I'll go back or forward or sideways or wherever in your thinking. But that quiet time is for us, because everything we need, every communication, every connection, it's already here. It's just around us. We're in it. We're immersed in it all the time. And when I start thinking like that, as I have done for a while now, it does change how I view certain practices and certain phraseology. You know, I'm a big one for when people say things, hang on, I can't quite go to grips with that. Wonderful Simon James up at the college open day, and he had a trance demonstration, and he touched on this very subject, and I thought, that's how interesting is that? And saying about, you know, when we're talking about trance mediumship and handing over to our guides and calling our guides in to give them the control and things like that, and again, it's externalizing. And in that externalizing, I think this is part of our issue where we struggle sometimes to make the connection, because we've got this process in our mind. And I'm pretty sure the other world is sat there going, really? Really? When you finish with your mumbo jumbo, then we're ready to work with you. Blue, you must be invisible. Why are you invisible? It's because you're up the cherry tree picking your cherries, mate. Yeah, it's relaxing into it. And again, it's building up this very personal, very intimate connection with the other world. And again, I mean, see, even that phraseology, the other world, is a sort of divisionalism and a separatism. It's not the other world, it's this world, and this world is that world, and that world is this world. So it's very hard to lose the institutionalism of many years. But I think it's really worth doing. I've just been amazed at some of the connections, some of the linking up that's been going on, not just in demonstrable way, but other ways as well. And just going, that's really interesting. Lovely, Ashley. Ashley says, we have a tendency to overcomplicate something so beautifully immediate and present with us always. Yeah, we do. And again, it's coming through the lineage on the hand-me-down teachings that we do. Yeah, you know. And I'm not being derogatory when I phrase it like that. I'm not being funny or nasty. But I do think that an awful lot of the teaching is what people have been taught by somebody else before, and it's sort of like handed down through the line and never really questioned, never really looked at, never really asked about. We can go the wrong way with that. I've seen people get quite destructive. Trying to do something different to initiate that seems to need this level of destruction to come in. I'm sorry, I don't go along with that. That's not my way. We change. We're like a ship. We change course. We don't jump out of the water and then jump into another bathtub. We just change course and navigate it, because a lot of the teaching techniques and practices, these have been handed down now. We're probably on second, if not third generation of some of these practices. So we're looking at a good 20, 30 years between when that practice was first brought about to today. Well, the spirit world doesn't sit on its laurels by any means. In fact, it's probably more ahead than we give it credit for. But certain things they're there already, and when we are ready, then it will become available to us. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you. But I do feel one of the things where we can really make some needed changes in our philosophy in the way that we are is by bringing more focus back to the medium. No matter how you work, whether you're a spirit artist, an evidential, philosophical, it doesn't matter. Just the term medium, the intermediary. Bringing that thought of more self-development, more self-awareness into our mediums of today and tomorrow, I think will only be beneficial. Again, I'm only going to give things which is my experience, so I can talk about it and I can criticize it or whatever, because it's mine to do it with. I was working last night online and somebody stepped in and I thought, I know this person. I've not met you, but I know of you. Anyway, it turned out to be one of what we call the pioneers of spiritualism, and there was a link with the gentleman that I was working with online. It was understood, and it was very interesting the way it unfolded. And I was thinking about that this morning because I did think, wow, well, hello, how are you? I did think about it this morning, and I just thought, well, it's perfect sense. You know, all these people, the pioneers of the past, so the Gordon Higginsons, Fanny Higginson, gosh, there's so many, I can't even recall all of them. But we know those names of those generations, and we know they're very venerated, and we know they are held in a very high esteem, and almost to the point of, I think a lot of mediums, had they got that link last night, would have balked at it, would have gone, oh, no, I can't work with him. You know, who am I to work with him? I know. But if you think about it, all the pioneers spent an entire lifetime devoted to spiritualism. And the fact that they're over the other side now only means they've got more time to keep devoting to that practice and philosophy and way of life that they understood, promoted, and still love dearly. So, of course, they're going to be around. Of course, they're going to pop in with their tuppence worth. Of course, they're going to make themselves aware. Go on, who was it? Belinda. Oh, gosh, the postman. Albert Best. Because I started off saying, I know this man is a very well known and very well revered. And as I relaxed into it, I said, this is Albert Best. And the guy went, I sat with him. I was like, oh. Wow, hello. But of course they're there. Of course they're there. You know, it is just going off on a sidetrack. I, like many evidential mediums, when you see another medium, be it in a live dem or a virtual dem, we did have this, oh God, what, you know, oh no, there's another medium in the room. Oh no, how are we going to do it? And one day I was on a virtual dem, and as the room was filling up, it was like medium, 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 medium. And I just thought, do you know what? These are just people. Get over yourself. You know, these are just people. Exactly. There's no difference. And it just works. It just absolutely worked. It just took that nerve factor because, you know, peer pressure is quite daunting. But it just took that nervousness away. But again, it's just relaxing into it. Lovely Roy, just saying there, and quite rightly, who better to continually guide us than those who have walked the walk? Very true. It's very true. There was another well-known luminary. Funny enough, we're just coming up for the rally weekend. And 2 years ago, one of the demonstrators came down like on the Wednesday, and the other one was arriving on the Thursday. On the Wednesday night, we were sat here at this table in this room, and I just looked at a chair, and I had the fleeting impression of somebody. And I went, there's a man sat in that chair. He went, who is it? And I went, it's Gordon Higginson. Now, I'm not given to fancy and flights and certainly no ego. Oh, it's Gordon Higginson. But what's he doing here? And I thought, I think he's just come into because of what we're doing, just to have a look. The following night, the other demonstrator turned up. They went up to the airport, picked them up, brought them back. They walked into this room, no word of a lie. They walked across the room to here, looked over at that chair and went, why is Gordon Higginson sat in that chair? I hadn't said a word. Hadn't said a word. And I just thought, I think that's rather wonderful. You know, that the pioneer spirit and energy is still very, very prevalent in our movement. And still very accessible as well to those, you know, can open up to it. But again, it comes back down to our own personal development. I go through lots of different phases and things. I've been up some blind alleys, fair enough. Went and had a look, didn't work, so that's fine. But I've been really fortunate here with our virtual work and our in-house work of meeting some great people, absolutely great and inspirational people. In fact, this time next weekend, we will be in the throes of the first night of the rally. And the rally is just a really good energy. It's a really good weekend. It brings people together in a variety of ways. We will have the obligatory demonstration of evidential mediumship. I'm not being rude or dismissive. It's part and parcel of what we do as spiritualists. And the weekend is designed to show a lot more aspects of that. So we will be having a divine service with all the demonstrators taking part. We will be having a trance mediumship demonstration. We will be having 2 workshops. And we'll also be having, you know, the highlight of the weekend, the talks and with Q&As from different people. And so it's a really good celebration of spiritualism and a nice balance to it as well, because I think sometimes we lose the balance a little bit. The industry standard service is an hour, 20 minutes, and it's like 10 minutes only for the philosophy, because they only come here for the message, which I always think is a very strange thing for anybody running a church to say, because actually, have you ever asked these people, who you keep referring to? So everything's been tailored around the evidential message. A lot of the events, you know, we're getting together, we're having a coffee morning and doing this and doing that, and there'll be a demonstration of mediumship. It's just like the demonstration of mediumship is just thrown in everything. You know, we've got a cake sale and messages, and it's just, I find it personally, this is me personally, I find it a little bit distasteful that every time we open our doors of a church or a centre or any sort of gathering, it's got to have the demonstration of mediumship in it. It is an important part of what we do. It's all right us saying there is no death, but we can actually evidence that. So it is very, very important. But it's not the be-all and end-all. And I am noticing since, when was this? Since November last year, there's been sort of like a downturn in people attending mediumship development workshops. And that's not just here, that is in other places. It's coming across very loud and clear. Because we're living in a really tough world. Hello, Patrick. We're living in a really tough world. And for the last 20, 30 years, we've been continually bombarded with, no disrespect. I've got your mother here. She loves you very much. She's very proud of you. When we're not being challenged, that's quite nice, isn't it? You know, it's not hard. It's just nice. But we're living in a world now full of challenges. Whenever we turn on the telly, whenever we go into our social media, we look at a newspaper or whatever, it's just full of challenge. So we are changing. We are changing the way we immerse ourselves with the other world. So more things are accessible to us because our thinking has changed. I was talking to the circle group and I had a whiteboard. I like my whiteboards. I had a whiteboard up, and on the very top corner of the whiteboard there was one little dot. And I said, you know, before, this is what we've done with the other world. We've gone to that one little dot because we want, you know, somebody's mother or gran or husband, whatever. That's what we want, and that's what we're looking for. And I said, but in doing that, going to that one little point all the time, we become oblivious to the rest of everything because everything's there. When you think about it, everything is there. But we've gone in, you know, that's what we want. That's just that little teeny tiny spot just there. And we miss the rest of the picture. And I think because of all the changes, because of the turmoil, because of everything going on in the world, that we're not that focused now on going to that little teeny tiny dot. That we're now taking in a little bit more of the picture. And this is why, you know, as I say, people keep saying the spirit world have changed the way they work with us. No, they haven't. Again, this is our separatism coming in. And we've changed. So our outlook has changed, our vision has changed, our perception has changed. Because again, you know, the spirit world have changed the way they're working with us. Straight away, externalized. We are not in control. We're not in the driving seat. We are not in charge of this situation. It's the other world. And they want to change things, and I have to obey. And I'm sorry, I don't, it doesn't sit with me that. You know, we are the ones, we inset the communion, we inset that communication, we inset that conversation that we have. And again, I'm thinking about this and talking about this as well. I mean, it has been a thing within the movement. Casting mine back over many years, actually, and it would be quite common to hear a medium saying, "Oh, they're changing the way they're working with me." And again, this is again with my thinking at this time. It highlights this subordination to the other world. You know, they've changed, so I've got to fit in around it. But actually, you've changed. And they're fitting in around it. How about that for a thought? So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for the comments. Keep them coming, because as I said, this is a very off-the-cuff evening. Lovely Ashi. It is a very assumptive thing to say about the congregation to assume a level of knowledge or motivation for people who come to a service. Yeah. It is, and it's one of my... it is a minor irritation to me when I hear these things being said, because I just say, well, have you ever asked they? You know, I'm like pain in the neck. There is sometimes this this is what they want, this is what they've always had, this is, you know, this keep things ticking over nicely, and it's not challenging and don't have to think about it, so we'll just carry on plodding along that path. Because I said to the other world, when I sat here having a natter, You know, I spend more company in the time of dead people than I do living sometimes, and it's quite nice. I said to the other one, do you ever get fed up? Do you ever, or frustrated or whatever, when people who've been going to services for years and years and years and years and getting messages for years and years and years and years, and there's no sort of like movement really, there's no fire starting to be built, there's no spark of expansion. It's just, oh, that was lovely, I'll come back next week, maybe I'll get another one, you know. And I said, do you ever get tired of that? And they said, we give. And I went, oh, okay. I get very, very simplistic answers from the other world, which is great, because I'm not an argumentative type, but if I were, there's nothing there to argue with. It's just like, yeah, okay, I get that. And they just said, we give. And also the feeling with that was, we give, we did give, we do give, and we will continue to give. What people do with it is none of our business, because once we've given that thing, it's no longer ours. So yeah, I get that. Oh, quick hello to the lovely Elspeth, who's nearly got a kitchen. Yay! Lovely Matt. Really nice meeting up with you again last week, Matt. He's saying, really interesting to hear about your experience of the pioneers. I feel a need for the inspiration and more philosophy from spirit to support those with challenging times. Yeah, as I say, I think my gut feeling, because I did say late last year, and again, not blowing my own trumpet, that this year we need to focus on self and personal development. So that was already there. That was already circulating in the energy. And as time's going by, the benefits of doing just that are becoming more and more apparent. That we as mediums, no matter what way we work, healing, evidential, philosophical, doesn't matter. We are that interface. The more we develop ourselves, the more understanding that we gain, and the more, I use that word, intelligently we interact with the other world, the greater the benefits. Last night's den was really interesting on many levels. And I remember thinking afterwards, because there is such a need in the world now, because it wasn't, we had evidence, but there was an awful lot of thinking coming through. There was an awful lot of, have you considered this? And not the standard message of like the old CERT, communicator, evidence, reason, tie up. There wasn't no standards whatsoever. It was very free-flowing conversations. And talking about things of today's world, which I found absolutely wonderful. So the more that we break down our barriers, break down those walls that we've built up over the years, of how a message should be, what it should have, what it must have. Sorry, I've got a noisy cat. She's so noisy tonight. The greater the amount of information coming through. But again, everything, it's a double-edged sword. So we've got to be mindful that when we're working in this way, that there is that connection there. I do sometimes look at adverts, and when I see the words guidance from the other world coming in, I just think, is it really guidance from the other world, or is it your opinion? I don't know. I think it just sticks with me. They do guide, they do help, but when it's just put out as guidance, because everyone's looking for guidance, And as I say, sometimes I've heard people, oh yes, well, Spirit has said blah, blah, blah to me. And I go, no, they haven't. You've said that. The only spirit that's come from is your spirit, because that's your way of thinking. That's why it's there. That's not been given to you. That's evolved from your own thinking. And it's wrong. And I didn't say that, honest. Wow. But yeah, I think there is going to be this very big progressive change accompanying all the changes in our world of the way communications come across. Lovely Leslie Thomas, good evening, my darling. And what's contained therein. One of, again, everything's double-edged sword. Everything we do, we change one thing and it's going to have an effect somewhere else. And one of the effects, and I've already seen this coming in, because you're beautiful, aren't you? Is where the style of mediumship is evolving. Because the mediums are evolving, sometimes the sitters are not up on that evolutionary schedule. So I've seen and heard some really quite disparaging comments about people working because it's not the way we used to. And that's a shame. That is a shame. But wow. But it is up to the churches and, the churches and the centres to continue on not only with the demonstrations, but with the education. Because when we're not educating in our churches, our centres, our dems, we're missing this really golden opportunity. Wow, we're missing this wonderful opportunity there to bring people along, or just to open doors, open up new vistas, encourage new thinking, encourage development. And we have that opportunity each and every time we work. And again, sometimes it's stymied through the church or the centre, their practices of, only 10 minutes for the philosophy because they don't want to hear all that talking. It's actually something that was said. I was just stood there flabbergasted. Through to, the congregations. Or audiences, whatever venue we're working in. But again, if the spirit world can just keep give, what darling? I know. Then actually it's our duty to keep giving and take it on the nose and take those opportunities. The little stone in the pool thing and sending the ripples out. So, for goodness sake, I don't know what's the matter with her. Oh, I do know what's the matter with her. I seem to have acquired another cat, but that's another story. Anyway, Roy McKay. Sometimes we as mediums get stuck in the mud and need to evolve and accept change in many ways, challenging ourselves. Yeah, we do. One of the wonderful things, though, now, because of this new virtual form of spiritualism, is nights like this and other opportunities to interact with people. Pre-2020, I didn't speak to many other mediums, not through choice, it's just opportunity to talk, because they're working or I'm working or running whatever, and you just didn't get the opportunities really to meet up. But now we do. Now we can pop online any time of the day or night and pick up different things, different YouTube videos. There's some great YouTube videos out there. Absolutely wonderful. And really interesting topics, and taking them in and just thinking, you know what, I like that. I do like that. So yeah, we've got this new way around us, to be able to. Or Roy, I'll often hear a tap at the door, and it will be Roy popping in for a coffee, or even bringing a coffee, which he did do the last time, which was lovely. For these chats and talks, so yeah. But we do sometimes get stuck. But we have got more ability now to reach out and talk with people. Pre-2020, Zoom, Facebook Live and all that was totally alien to me. I had no idea. You're right. I had no idea all that existed, really. I had little interest, but now I do spend quite a lot of time having a chat. I've had 3 calls today. It's been great, actually. It's been lovely. So, yes, Roy, we do sometimes get stuck. Lovely. Actually, the role of faith and different ways that we express that faith are always changing. It is exciting. It shows us this way of life is thriving and growing. Otherwise, we wither on the vine. This is so true. This is so true, and sadly, I'm seeing that in a few places. You go in, we are inherently sensitive. It goes with the package. And you can walk into a place and you can tell pretty much straight away if there is any sort of like education going on, or if it's still all just wrapped up in the phenomena of what we do. People sat there going, let's come next week, it might be better. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Lovely Belinda. She says, my last 2 recipients have been hospital managers. Sorry. Maybe the last 2 recipients have been in hospital. Is that before or after the reading, Belinda? So we start that again. My last 2 recipients have been hospital managers, one in intensive care, one in dementia. It was their first reading, and their communicators were patients of theirs. The messages they received changed the way they look at the work they do. Magical. It is magic. I say to people, this is the magic in our work. And I think we've lost sight of that. I loved I do still do. I love my mum and dad dearly. I can talk to them whenever, which is wonderful. But to have them sitting here and in conversation, that's the magic. And when they work through another medium, that again is that magic, because they're there. You can feel that presence, and there is no other word than magic. It's magic. Wonderful, wonderful. Sharon, beautiful cat. Yeah, she may look beautiful, Sharon, but she's being a little madam at the moment, so... Christine Stewart, spirit voices will always find a way to the message out, and the internet is a wonderful tool to do that. Yes. Yeah, it is. It's very true. Lovely Ashley, who's in the room tonight. It's quite nice. Ashley was the one that approached me many years ago saying, have you heard of this thing called StreamYard? And do you think we could work on this? And lo and behold, 5 years later, yes, we can. It's wonderful. And the other world, again, it's already there. It needs us to change our thinking. Going back to the little dot on the screen, I want a message, so that's the little bit that I want there. It was suddenly, okay, well, we can't open up the church, we can't have a meeting, let's try this. And lo and behold, it worked. And someone somewhere was working on Zoom and went, oh my God, it works. Because we had to change. And when change is forced upon us, that's when we evolve, we adapt. And this is part of the thing of this world today, with all that's going on in it. We're all going to have our own thoughts, our own ideas, our own perceptions of all the players and what's coming from them. But it's forcing this evolution upon us. It is giving us the ability to change. It is giving us the ability to progress the way we connect, communicate, understand, respond to things. And I don't think there's ever been a time like we're seeing at the moment. We could probably understand better at the moment. This sounds an awful thing. But we could understand better at this moment if this was actually all-out conflict going on, rather than just everything and what's coming in or what's being said, what's being pushed about, it's like this complete assault on all our senses. If we're in a conflict situation, we have a focus, we have, that's it. That's where we take ourselves. That's where we put our energy. But now, where do you go with your energy at the moment? Everywhere you look, there's stuff going on. But again, it is changing us. It is changing our connections, our understandings of the other world. And we're all going to see and perceive things differently. If I said fish, somebody will see a cod, somebody will see an eel, somebody will see, I don't know, a shark. It's not a fish, but it's in the sea. We'll all see and understand things differently and perceive. And this is what we're seeing as well, all these different philosophies coming about of different types of communication with different sources other than spirit and things like that. And yeah, I went through a little phase of just getting a bit frustrated and a bit antsy and thinking, oh, for goodness sake. But yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. If that's where your mind is taking you, that's where your understanding is taking you, absolutely fine. And again, like all things, if that's what you truly believe, great, go along with it. Please don't try and force it on me. Or have a conversation or a debate by all means, but please don't come in with the you're wrong and I'm right scenario, because it just doesn't work. Certainly not with me. Lovely Elizabeth. Yes, we wish you were here. I hope you're feeling a bit better, darling. There's so many bugs and things going about at the moment. It's not very good. We've got quite a few of the congregation gone down with different things. So yeah, it was a shame, but never mind. It will happen. It will happen. We will see your lovely smiling face down here. So yeah, but just hope that you're feeling a bit better. Hope you're reaching for a bottle or two. Look. Oh, I've got my medicines up here for you, Elizabeth. Yeah, it was a shame. This is today's world. Things change, and we go with it. There's always a reason. I love that film, Sliding Doors. I don't know how many of you have seen it. And it was two stories. One, they rushed to get on the tube, and one made it, and one they didn't. And it was two totally different stories. So I always think, you know what? We don't know. We don't know why. So, okay, that's fine. But anyway, we do miss you, darling. But it will happen when it happens. But in the meantime, hopefully you are going to get over the latest bout of these horrible things that are going about and be fit and healthy. So, well, that's not bad. I managed 50 minutes off the cuff. But it's interesting times. It is interesting times. And where we're having our foundations rocked in everything that we maybe not cleave to, but we're always there. For goodness sake, I'm going to get you a little hat to go over your tail. I know. Yeah, we're all these institutions now that were always there and just operated, we didn't really question, and now just, wow, seem to be challenging us on every level. Just living is challenging us. The cost of living and how to exist and what to do in this society, everything is a challenge. But the one thing that doesn't let us down is ourselves. Will you stop, please? This is not OnlyFans. The only thing that doesn't let us down is that ability to connect and find that inspiration with the other world, and to find that understanding as well, to find that those thought processes that lead us on to different ways of thinking. They're the dependable things. They're the things totally within our control. They're the things that cannot be weaponized against us. They are the things that are reliant today as they ever have been, and immutable in their process. So yeah, I think we need, well, I don't like saying we need to, because the other world have never said to me, you need to do this or you have to do that. They've always put it, have you considered, have you thought about? And I think we need, programming. We may consider where our strengths are, even within those strengths where we can improve and build upon. But that is our connection. That is us. It's bringing it back to us. And that's how I feel where this time is leading us much more into us and ourselves and our spirit and our soul and our connections. So interesting. So, I'm just about to talk myself out now. Thank you very much, everybody who joined. A little bit shorter tonight, but as I said, it was very last minute and very, for goodness sake. Very inspired. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. These are the evenings I love. When you've got an evening and it's still and it's sunny, it's just like, it's great. This is a good time to be alive. So whatever you're doing, have fun. Lovely blue if you're still on. Loving what you're doing to your new house. It looks absolutely wonderful out there. And I know you're going to have a great amount of fun. Thank you all for joining us, and we will be back next weekend. No, we won't. We will definitely not be back next weekend because we start the rally weekend. So don't forget, on the Sunday, you can watch the Divine Service in the morning from 10 a.m. BST. And that's with all 4 demonstrators. And then from 12:30, you can join in at home and watch the talks going on, being delivered by Susan, Jason, Mark, and Stephen Meager. So, enjoy. In the meantime, lots of love. Thank you, everybody. And, look after yourselves and be proud of yourselves. We all got here today through not an easy route, so just acknowledge that and go, got it. Good night, everybody.